I'm about to explain to you guys why the whole line of the Republicans are for the working man and the working people is full of BS, and you can smell it from a mile away. All you have to do is look at HUD, the Housing for Urban Development. Dr. Ben Carson, he's decided that we aren't getting screwed over hard enough in America. His whole idea is, his whole proposal is to make work requirements for people that receive federal housing assistance. And due to said proposals, it's going to triple rent. Triple. These people are already on housing assistance. You really think they have the money to be having the rent tripled? If they did, they wouldn't be on housing assistance. Okay, now let's deep dive into where I found this article. I found it on the Washington Post. I will link down to the article in the description box on YouTube. Y'all let me know if you can't access it or anything, yada yada, just let me know. Now, we'll go over the details of his new proposal and how it comes to be that it ends up tripling the rental units for low-income people. Alright, what it stated in the article and what I've seen by multiple sources is the ambitious effort to shrink the federal assistance has been dubbed Welfare Reform 2.0 after old Slick Willie Bill Clinton's welfare reform. The proposal affects housing, food stamps, and Medicaid, would require congressional approval. Trump earlier this month signed an executive order directing federal agencies to expand working requirements for low-income people receiving Medicaid, food stamps, public housing, and welfare in other agencies. They have 90 days to wait for it now. The Republican plan to strengthen work requirements continues, and Urban Development Secretary proposed a far-reaching change to the federal housing subsidies Wednesday, tripling the rent for the poorest households and making it easier for housing authorities to impose work requirements. The proposal, approved by the House Aggregate Committee, would expand work initiatives mandating that most adult recipients under 60 work part-time or enroll in state-run training programs will apply to as many as $7 million. The Trump administration also stated that this would go to Medicare and all that. Okay, the initiative unveiled by Carson would raise the rent for tenants in subsidizing housing to 35% of their gross income. That's where it's tripling. That's what I was trying to get down to. Okay, so what they're gonna do is it's gonna be 35% of their gross income. They're gonna have to cover it, and then they can receive everything else. Let's look at this. The average housing price has gone up. Rent is ridiculous. Okay, even in a low income area where I live, for everyone that doesn't know, I live in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We're not that rich of an area, but we're not a complete shithole. The average housing price for a one-bedroom apartment here is about $700. Now, could you make that making them a minimum wage? Yeah, but you're looking at more than a full-time job. And that's with you barely scraping by and basically living off dollar store food. If an emergency comes, you're SOL. Any medical emergency? Ooh, you're going to get screwed, my friend. Screwed. Now, that would basically, this whole concept would also cap rent for the poorest families, would rise up to about $150 a month, 3 times the higher than the existing $50 ceiling. About 712,000 households would see their monthly rents rise to the $150 a month, official said. Now, when you're to actually qualify for these programs, you have to go in there. You have to fill out all the paperwork, jump through all the hoops, and then you move in. Most of the time, you're given a one-bedroom apartment, and that's it. You're not getting anything fancy. So, for all those thinking, oh, the welfare queens, they're coming, they're taking all these homes. No, they're not. Most federal assistance housing is in the shittiest neighborhoods of your life. I had a couple friends growing up back in the day that lived in such housing. It sucked. Trust me. It's nothing to be envious over. However, the benefit of having it at a lower level than what they're doing is, the simple fact is, when you have it at a lower level, people are able to save up more of their money to get out and potentially improve their lives. And with around $50, you can actually, when you save your money from your minimum wage job, you could have potentially pay to go to school, pay some doctor bills, pay for your kids' stuff, and it costs less money in the long run. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to make it more of a burden on the individual, and it's going to make it harder for these people to get by. Why are we putting more hoops up in a civilized society to make it harder for people to live? Why? I mean, you have to have zero empathy to go into these areas, these poor and impoverished neighborhoods, and say, yeah, let's make it harder for these individuals. What are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah, that's 100% why the Republicans aren't the party of the working people. They're full of shit when they say that. And if you believe that, I have a bridge to nowhere to sell you. And I'll take some of your money, because if you're that stupid, I should feel pity for you, or empathy for you, but it's kind of hard for me to. Now, let's flip this on its head. I know when most people think the face of poverty, they usually think of a minority. But that's not 100% true. No one minority class is 100% the face of poverty. Now, if you look at it by numbers, actually more white people are in poverty than any other. That has more to do with the fact that more white people make up the most of the U.S. citizenry, so of course there's gonna be more of numbers proportionally. Now, if you look at by percentage-wise, yes, it is generally your stereotypical black person is your face of poverty. However, all races, all people, that means all different colors, ethnicities, and races, will be affected by this. So Trump supporters, I know you think, oh, that black guy or that Latino or even that Asian is going to get it. Yeah, but there'll be white people affected too by it, so you're not helping yourselves out. Especially if you're poor and approve this policy, it's going to be harder. Because most, generally speaking, if you're in the lower income bracket, you live ghetto adjacent to these areas. And what I mean by ghetto adjacent is you're in the lower working class area, which you may even have a house. But it's a one-story house, it's a ranch style, it's nothing to brag home about, but it's yours. And most likely you're going to see these people affected by it, and you see the extra stress is going to spill over. That's what happens every time we do a program like this. That was actually one of the reasons, one of the major downfalls that Bill Clinton did when he did the first initial welfare reform was the explosion of drug use. Now, why would you say that? Simple fact is, if it's harder for you to make money and you're taking more to actually get into a house, you're gonna look for an escape in reality. Or if you're smart and economical, you'll start selling drugs to make money and to feed off these people's insecurities. That'll happen. Now, hopefully it won't, but if this goes through, yeah, most likely will. And the drug of choice now is heroin and fentanyl and a bunch of other opioids. So we're just going to feed the addiction more. That's a story for a different day. I'll cover that in the next video. Alright, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. Remember, please do it. I have a student loan to pay off, so please. Alright.